So, exams are just around the corner. Everyone's taking things seriously now. Everyone's studying, attentive, keen and ready. The atmosphere in school's different and you feel the slight pressure to perform good as well. And that's all good, apart from the fact that you can't find any motivation and you're in a slump. What is a slump? A slump is a period of time when you feel unmotivated and stuck in a rut. It often happens when you take a break from your usual routines and struggle to find the motivation to get back on track. And I was in an academic slump during summer. And I think that when you take a break and you fall out of your rhythm, it's the easiest place and time for you to slip into the cracks and fall out into a slump. And academic slumps are the worst because you can't avoid them. Exams have always been there and they're inevitable. And yet, as the deadline draws closer and closer and you can't find the motivation to do so, it's like you're stuck in this insidious loop. You're unmotivated and so you get behind, but then you feel guilty and angry at yourself, and then that leads to even more demotivation. So basically, for me, I had 9 weeks off for summer. And that sounds all fun. Oh, 9 weeks, I can get to do whatever I want. But the thing is, when you have school especially, you understand that this routine and almost like current that's gently pushing you along this path acts as stabilizers. You have this routine, you know what you have to do throughout the day. And then suddenly you have nothing. It's so easy to get lost, to not know what to do. That's what happened to me. I knew that this summer would be a hard one because I had to revise, because straight after I'd have my GCSEs and my mocks. And so I let this daunting feeling come over. You know the feeling. The feeling that you get in your stomach when you think of the big task due, whether it's coursework due or big exams due, but you know that you're not ready for it. You feel this clenching, awful feeling in your stomach. And even though I didn't know it then, that was mistake one, but we'll come on to that later. And so I just sit and binge YouTube all day, doing nothing. But just before I had to sleep, I'd feel this sense of urgency that I had to do work, and I'd try to cram everything I had to do that day into that 20 minutes of session. But I spent the whole day doing nothing and my brain was quite frankly turned off, so I couldn't even do anything. It was such a sad and miserable period. You just end up falling deeper and deeper. And the first step to solving your slump is to understand why you're in a slump. And there are 3 reasons this could be. The first one is something called learned helplessness. And this is when you did badly or you have a bad experience about something. So you tell yourself that you're bad at it and there is no point in trying. For example, you failed this physics test one time. And so you tell yourself that no matter how hard I work, I'm going to fail physics anyway. So when it's time to work on physics, you feel no motivation to do so. And so you end up putting off the practice. Although that practice is what's going to make you better, it seems pointless because you'll just do bad anyway. And the second one is external circumstances. And this is like a change in surroundings, stress, family problems, household problems, and these can genuinely be impactful and be the reason that you're in a slump. And I'm not an expert on this, but if this is genuinely a problem, I suggest seeking help and talking to someone. And the third one is laziness, probably the most common, and maybe you even have a combination of laziness and learned helplessness. And this is just when you feel like you deserve rest or free time, and it's just so much easier to do the easy thing, just watch YouTube instead of study for the test that you have. So just journaling and giving yourself a diagnosis about which slump you're in and why you're in it. It's half the way there. You've understood why you're in it. So now it's time to planning how to get out of it. So here's how to break out of a slump. When you're in a slump, this is what's happening. Your mood and productivity is going down slowly over time. But because you're already on this downward tangent, if you do nothing, you'll just keep falling at that same rate. Okay, I'm waffling, but you get it. You have to make the U-turn. And this takes willpower and energy, but once that turn has been made, you will start climbing back up surely but steadily. But how do we make this turn, I hear you ask? Let's rewind to my situation. So I was there at night knowing I had to do my work, but I was so unmotivated. But I got that stomach wrenching feeling, remember? Yeah, so the first big mistake that I made was that instead of breaking down the task into small and manageable chunks, I looked at it all at once and it seemed daunting and impossible. I talk about this in this video more specifically, but it's like when you need to climb a mountain with 10,000 steps. If you look at the entire mountain and the whole of the 10,000 steps you need to climb, it will seem impossible. You won't end up doing it. But just look at the next step, step 1 and step 2. It's easy, right? It's almost laughably easy. They're just a couple of steps. And so before you know it, because you're looking at just the next step, you're already at step 3456, and that's almost already a third of the way there. Then this is just another one of my silly analogies, but the reason you get this stomach wrenching feeling and you just feel demotivated, you can't get yourself to click off of the YouTube video and start studying, is that you're looking at what you have to do in this too broad of a scale, so you're never going to end up doing it. And since we're on the topic of mindset, growth mindset is important. And I know, don't click off yet. More than anyone, growth mindset, they would always say in primary school, growth mindset, I can't do this yet. And all these posters they put everywhere, it seems useless, pointless, even cringe. But trust me, it works. Especially if you have learned helplessness. Listen to this. Why would you tell yourself that you're just going to fail anyway? You're just not there yet. Because although this may not be true, just by leaving the door open, leaving that bridgeway there so that one day if you do decide to walk across, you have the option to, is so important. Because let's say that you cut off this bridge entirely, then it's physically impossible for you to get there. There's a reason that all famous sports people, celebrities and successful businessmen all adopt this mindset. It's because it works. And the second thing to do is to write out a roadmap. Write down where you are right now. For example, you're doing no work, you're lazy, you go on social media for 4 hours a day, you study 0 minutes every day, and your grades right now are suffering immensely. And then write down your goal state, where you want to be. You're easily productive, doesn't struggle with distractions, gets all A's, and studies for 30-40 minutes, an hour a day. It seems like a big jump between these two things that you have probably wrote. But embedding what we talked about before, make it so that there's steps in between each one. Having this clear intention about where you want to be is so much better than just having a vague kind of idea of where you want to be. Think about it. The person who goes to the gym with the intention of, I want to get stronger, it's such a vague goal and you probably won't achieve it. However, the person who says, I want to go to the gym so that I can do 10 pull-ups will end up achieving that goal. And as I mentioned, add these little checkpoints. So if you want to start studying again, make the goal of reading one textbook page a day. Just one. Because the second big mistake that people make is that they compare themselves to where they used to be. For example, during school you used to study an hour every day, and now since we only want to read one textbook page, that seems laughable. Our ego is too big to let us do that, because we used to study an hour a day, but now we're only at one textbook page. But by setting achievable goals, you'll make it so that you do it and build consistency, because you know by now that you should standardize before you optimize. Make it consistent before you level it up, and set easily achievable small steps between you and where you want to get to. And always remember that yesterday you were doing nothing, but today you're doing something, and so that's all that matters. How to stay on track. You may find that this works initially, but you find yourself plateauing again, but that's okay. It's probably because you suddenly felt angry about not being at the stage you want to be, or you compared yourself too high instead of the step in front of you. But just remember, one step at a time. We're in a work debt right now, and we're just paying that off before we can see results. Because we can't actually see positive results because we're just getting back to where we were, and only a little more will be the thing that's needed to show the results. Remember, the man with £1 million in debt is not the same as a man with £0 of balance. And also a bonus tip is that I like to use daily lists to make sure I get things done, and it aids with me getting back on track. Also, make things fun and easy for yourself, and I can assure you that you'll be out of your slump in no time.